This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about Russian glamour shots, the beauty of blaming your parents for your character flaws, and Jiminy Cricket's hat. All that and more as we watch Season 3, Episode 21 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Imran, one of your hosts. Joining me every week, my sister Sophia. What's up, sibling?
Hi, Imran. I'm having such a great day. I got a promotion at work. I'm kind of a hotshot now, and I just moved into like a bigger apartment. I have like 3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms?
And I'm getting a new car, a fancy one.
Wow, you seem to be doing well. Well, you know, I had a great day too. I was doing yard work and I found gold buried in the backyard. And then I cashed that in and now my house is made out of gold. Yeah.
Wait a minute. You have a yard? Now you're just bragging.
Well, we're going to hear a lot of bragging this episode of Perfect Strangers. We are at Season 3, Episode 21. My Brother, Myself is the title of this episode. It's kind of a weird title. Makes sense, but just like those 3 words, my brother, myself.
Is that a reference to anything?
I don't think so.
Actually, there was also a Growing Pains episode called My Brother, Myself, Season 2, Episode 16.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's a common phrase. There's like some book titles, but if anyone knows the original reference, please write in and let us know. But if you were to open the TV guide in 1988 and read about this episode, you would have read, to impress his cosmopolitan brother, Larry tells lie upon lie about being a successful newspaper editor, dragging Balky into the scheme as well.
Oh, there's lies and schemes.
We know Balky doesn't like lies or schemes.
Ah, that's surprising. Larry has lies and schemes in an episode of Perfect Strangers. That's never happened.
What?
Of course, the show starring Bronson Pinchot as Balky, Mark Lynn Baker, Larry, Belita Moreno cameo as Miss Lydia Markham. Also, you have Jo Marie Payton as Harriet Winslow.
She's been in like every single episode for a while. She's like more than Jennifer and Marianne. We see
she's the conscience. She's the strong
Lydia and Harriet.
Yeah, they've become like they're the kind of the angel conscience on angels on their shoulder a little bit, advising. And then special guest star playing Larry's brother, Billy Appleton, Ted McGinley. Now, you know Ted McGinley. This guy is huge in the 80s. We will talk about where he's been seen when we get to him. But the minute you see, he's one of those guys where you're like,
oh, it's that guy.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that guy.
Of course, Ted McGinley, that guy.
This episode aired on March 18th, 1988.
All right. Act 1, this one opens at the Chicago Chronicle. Balky's on the phone, and he's talking to Larry's brother, Billy. Balky tells him he's going to make sure to tell Cousin Larry that he's coming in for a visit. Billy is coming to visit them.
What have we heard about Billy up till now? We have heard Billy reference.
So we've met Elaine, actually. We heard about Elaine, and then we met her at the end of an episode, Season 2. Billy... and Larry has a huge rivalry with Billy, and they've always tried to one-up each other. And they established this actually pretty quickly in the beginning. It's quite well done. So what's funny with this phone conversation is there's a little bit of character development of Billy already, because Billy must have said to Balky, "Ciao, guy," because we hear Balky go, "Oh, ciao to you too, guy," and it hangs up.
Which
and
is
I was like, what?
Ciao, guy is like, I wonder if that was like a common saying in the 80s among fancy people, but it seems so strange now. Ciao, guy. Like I hear ciao a lot.
The guy is new.
But ciao,
I've never
guy.
heard ciao, guy. I remember everybody calls somebody guy. What's up, guy? Hey, guy. It's kind of annoying. I don't know. But Balky hangs up the phone just as Lydia shows up. And he's like, "Lydia, you'll never guess who's on the phone." And she's heard everything. So she goes, "Larry's brother, Billy." And Balky goes, "Get out of the city. You read my mind." And then he looks serious. He goes, "You must have PMS." And so this is a great double joke and a reaction from Lydia, actually.
He means...
ESP. Which, didn't they make an ESPN joke earlier? He's like, I must have ESPN. I feel like that was that.
Maybe.
But then Lydia,
extrasensory perception.
You notice Lydia reacts all embarrassed, like maybe she is a little crabby and there's something going on and she's a little bloated. So, and she's like, how did Balky know this? Just by looking at me. Oh boy.
It's like a very layered opening joke.
Yes.
So then the elevator door opens and we enter Larry and Harriet. And Balky is very excited with this news about this phone call. And he tells Larry that his brother Billy called. And Larry immediately looks a little bit nervous,
yes,
concerned, worried. He's like, my brother Billy called?
I love he goes, Billy? My brother? My brother Billy called?
And Balky tells him the news. What he heard from Billy on the phone is that Billy is jet setting in from Paris and wants to do lunch with them. And Balky says, and I've never done lunch before. So he made it sound so easy. I said yes. And then he gets excited. He says, cousin, I'm going to meet another Appleton. Let's savor this moment. And then he pauses for a moment and savors. And then he goes, well, I got to go.
And he takes off. He has met Elaine.
He has met Elaine. Maybe he means he's going to meet yet another Appleton.
That's what I read.
The way he said it, my first thought was like, but wait, you met Elaine.
Yeah, I thought he meant just another one. He wants to meet all the Appletons.
He met the father and everything in the very beginning when he came from Mipos and went to Wisconsin.
That's true.
And the Appleton father sent him to Chicago.
That happened off screen, though. It doesn't count.
Okay. Okay, fine.
At this point, Harry and Lydia both approach Larry, and he has this look on his face. He's very concerned. And Harriet's like, that's the same look my husband gets when I tell him my mother's coming to dinner.
Uh-oh.
And Lydia guesses that your brother must be a deadbeat. Is that the deal, Larry? And Larry goes, worse. Billy's successful. He owns his own company, jets around the world, has a villa in Monte Carlo. He's Mr. Perfect. Important details about brother Billy. And he says, and he never lets me forget it. And Lydia's like, so what? Take him out to lunch? Stick him with the check. She tells him with a wink. But Larry's worried he's going to get stuck with the check because he confesses he's been doing a little bit of bragging of his own to keep up. Of course he's going to. What has he been bragging about, sister?
He has been telling Billy all these years that he also makes a lot of money.
Oh, boy.
That he also has a fancy car, and that he is the city editor of the Chicago Chronicle.
What are we talking about?
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big exaggeration, embellishment, lie.
Well, remember, this was the 80s. You couldn't just Google who is the city editor of the Chicago Chronicle.
That is a good point.
You
for
had
PS
to take
Today.
people's word for it.
Yes. And then Lydia says, oh, what a tangled web we weave. What's the rest of the line? When first we practice
to deceive. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive.
Ooh,
which
what is this?
Sounds very familiar because everyone knows this line. And fun fact, this is often misattributed to Shakespeare.
Oh, that's who I thought it was.
In fact, it was not Shakespeare. Those lines were written by Sir Walter Scott. In a poem called Marmion that was published in 1808.
You know what? Secretly, though, Shakespeare wrote everything. That's what I think. So, anyways, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So Larry is very concerned because he says when Billy finds out the truth, he's going to torture me for the rest of his life. He's coming. He's going to see everything. And Harriet's like, well, what goes around comes around. But then Larry just goes, well, it hasn't come around yet. I mean, I fooled him for 2 years. Surely I can fool him for 2 hours. I'll get Balky to back me up. And then some amazing alliteration. You want to do this alliteration?
Yeah. So then, so Larry's just talking nonchalantly. He's like, I'll get Balky to back me up. We'll just run a bit of bogus braggadocio by Brother Bill. And by the time Billy gets back on the Boeing, he'll believe I'm Ben Bradley.
Then Harriet goes, you're babbling, baby.
And then Lydia says, don't break out the bubbly just yet, Larry. So it's a 3-person.
That's fantastic.
It's a 3-person alliteration. Now, let's talk about this reference. By the time Billy gets back on that Boeing, he'll believe I'm Ben Bradley.
Who is Ben Bradley?
Ben Bradley. There's actually two Ben Bradleys who are both journalists.
Oh, he's a journalist.
But this one, I'm pretty sure, is a reference to the elder Ben Bradley. In fact, he's the late Ben Bradley,
right,
who was a prominent post-World War II journalist in the United States. He was a managing editor and executive editor of the Washington Post for many, many years, from 65 to 91. He was also at the New York Times and was instrumental in the coverage of the Watergate scandal and all these other accomplishments. But he was a very prominent journalist.
So his line is like they're just gonna run a little thing around him, and Billy's gonna think he's this big guy Ben Bradley, as big as Ben Bradley. And then Lydia, of course, ends the scene and the act by saying Balky's not going to go along with this. He is the most honest person in the world, which is absolutely true. So Larry's going to have to do something devious, of course, coming up soon to get Balky
He's going to have to have
along.
a plan.
Listener, there's a place where you can talk about Larry's plans and schemes and whether you like them or maybe what your favorite one is. It's our Facebook group, Dance of Joy Podcast group. All of our listeners hang out in there. I post threads on the episodes we're recording. Lots of fun geeking out about minute details in the Perfect Strangers verse. Happens there. Join it today. Yes.
Okay, Act 2. Now we are back at the apartment, and it's the next morning. And Larry, you could see, like, he's just sitting there, like, tapping his fingers on a coffee cup. He's sitting at the kitchen table. Balky's reading a comic book while he's finishing breakfast, and there's a shot of Larry's face, and you can see in his face that he's scheming. Like the wheels are turning in his head.
I couldn't figure out what this comic book was that Balky was reading. I was trying really hard. I was like, what is that? I was so curious, but it's hard to tell.
That would have been a good detail.
I know. And I couldn't figure it out. Sorry.
But you can tell that Larry is scheming and like trying to figure out this plan in his head. On the counter behind him, we can see this like pile of items that it looks a bit suspicious, but we find out later what they're for. But the items are a framed photograph of Jennifer, a little desk nameplate, you know, those things, those triangles that go on your desk with Larry Appleton on it, and then also a trophy.
I mean, it's right behind his head in all the cutaway reaction shots. Yeah. So you're like, that's suspicious.
So he's scheming, and then he finally opens his mouth and starts the scheme, and he starts to laugh. He starts to laugh quite
like
loudly.
He's cackling.
He cackles.
Yes.
And Balky looks up from the comic book. He says, "What's so funny?" And Larry explains that he was thinking about the last time that he saw Billy. Billy really got him good playing Appleton's snow job. And of course, Balky helps us out by asking, "What that?" And Larry tells him it's a game they play in his family where they make up the biggest story they can think of, and you try to make your brother believe it.
Okay.
And then he says, and today, Billy and I are going to play, and Billy and I are going to have such fun.
There was some discussion in the group on this episode about that term snow job.
Right.
You know, why is it a snow job? Where does it come from? But a snow job is a thing. It is a phrase meaning a deception or concealment of one's real motives in an attempt to persuade or flatter.
I feel like this phrase has gone out of fashion.
Yes, it sounds weird now. Nobody really uses snow job, but this Appleton snow job is a great way to describe all of Larry's schemes that he's going to do, that he's done. It's an Appleton snow job.
I feel like snow job now would be a reference to cocaine.
Yeah, it makes you think of that, or, you know, making a snowman. I don't know. You can go the other way.
Right.
But look, Larry has to sell this, right? And it's working on Balky, and Balky's like, he wants to play Appleton Snow Job. And Larry goes, it's hard to play with more than two players. And Balky's like, oh, please. And then he does his little gag, but I want to play Appleton Snow Job. And Larry's like, no, I want to play Appleton. And then he's finally, I want to play Appleton Snow Job. And then Larry just flips and goes, okay, what the heck? You're it.
You know what I was thinking at this point is that in previous episodes, we have seen that Balky has wisened up to Larry. Balky's a really good judge of Larry's character. Yes. He knows Larry's character right now, and he's called him out on things before. But here, now we have this regression to Balky as like the innocent, trusting,
manipulated, and the plan is set in motion.
And like, is falling for this stuff again. So I feel like they play with his character. Like sometimes he's really like assimilated and has learned Larry's character and calls him out and he's smart. And other times he's like fresh off the boat again.
Give me a line of credit.
Yeah, exactly.
But here, the snow job is a little snowball and it is beginning to roll down the hill and get bigger. So Balky goes, cousin, how do we play? There's a weird thing where he gets up and he hugs Larry. And then he just sits on his knees next to him on the floor so that they can both rest their elbows on the table. It was weird blocking, but they needed for this next bit.
And so he asked Larry how they play, and Larry takes him through the rules or whatever. He says, first we make up a story. This is what the blocking was for. They both like put their elbows on the table and like go into deep thought.
They rest their head on their hands, with their elbows on the table.
Balky starts to say an idea that he gets. Larry interrupts him because he's manipulating, of course. He says, oh, I know. What if I tell him I write a sports column? And Balky starts to respond. Larry's like, no.
And then they go back to thinking.
And they go back to thinking. And then the same pattern. We have repetition. Balky's about to speak. Then Larry cuts him off. Oh, I know. What if I tell him I run the advertising department? And Balky starts to respond. Larry goes, no. And then they think again. And then Balky's about to, third time, rule of threes here. Balky's about to speak again. Larry gets another idea, says, I've got it. I'll tell Billy I'm the city editor of the Chronicle. And then now it's Balky who goes, no, it's a little over the top. He goes, I know where you're going with that.
He goes, it's a little much, a little over the top. And then Larry's like, Balky, city editor, is worth 50 points.
Oh, boy.
And Balky goes, wow. He's like,
there's points?
You really are good at this game. And then Larry has this great line. He goes, when it comes to snow jobs, I'm better than you know. Oh my God, Larry Appleton. How can you be so mean and manipulative and just rub it in his face? Yeah, Larry is good at snow jobs.
And so then we go into the next phase of Larry's manipulative plan.
He's moving ahead, yes.
He says to Balky, but how are we going to pull this off? I mean, and then he's like, Billy's coming to the paper for lunch right from the airport. And we can't exactly ask Mr. Burns, who is the city editor, to leave his office. And then he just looks at Balky. He's like leading Balky.
He lobs the softball
he's manipulating, leading
Balky.
him. And Balky's like, we don't have to, cousin, because Mr. Burns goes to lunch every day exactly at 1:00. And Larry's like, brilliant. I hadn't thought of that. And then he's like, what would convince Billy I'm city editor? What if I brought a few personal things just to make the office look like mine? And then he looks over at that pile of things at the counter, conveniently piled there, and he goes, oh, look, this stuff would be perfect.
And then he opens his briefcase and one hand just sweeps all the stuff in the briefcase and closes it. The stuff was just sitting there right on the stool on the briefcase. And again, Balky goes, wow. You are one snow job master. Oh, yeah, he's a master snow jobber. That's for sure.
Master snow jobber. So we cut to later that day and we're at the Chronicle. And Balky and Larry rush into an empty Mr. Burns' office and they start like putting all this stuff up, right? Billy's on his way up. Presumably they're like replacing the photos with Larry's photo, putting the nameplate, all this stuff, putting all the stuff up. And then Balky's like, wouldn't it be easier if we just let Mr. Burns in on the game? And then there's this hilarious line, which I didn't quite catch the first time I watched it. But the second time I watched it, I was like, wait a minute. Larry says, so Balky's like, why can't we just have Mr. Burns play in the game? And Larry's like, you can't play with 4. The teams would be uneven.
But then Harriet pops in and she's like, he's coming down the hall. And then Balky's like, wait a minute. I thought said you couldn't play with 4. And Larry's like, well, she's not playing. She's an alternate. And
then he just idea that like 4 the players makes the teams uneven.
4 people. And then he finally swaps the nameplate out, sits down in the chair just in time as Harriet opens the door and brings in Ted McGinley from Happy Days.
Guy.
Billy.
Oh, it's that
That guy
guy.
with the great hair and the handsome face, and that guy, I remember him.
Oh, it's that guy. And Harriet's like, Mr. Appleton, to see you, Mr. Appleton. She's playing the role of a secretary or something. And so it's that guy. He's good looking. He's tall. He's blonde. His hair is nicely coiffed. He's in a nice suit.
Yeah.
And Larry and Billy, they're like, Billy, Larry. And then they do like an awkward maybe hug, but ending in a handshake.
Yeah, they're not the hugging type right now.
And then we find out what Harriet thinks of Billy. She
This is a great line.
leans close to Larry and she goes, I hope you got the brains. And then she goes,
Oh my God, she thinks Billy is tasty.
Harriet does a bit of ogling. Yeah.
That's great.
She ogles Billy.
That's so funny. It's so subtle and so funny. And then, so they close the door and Billy and Larry do the thing where they both tell each other they gain some weight, but it's because they're both successful and try to dig on each other. And then Billy spots Balky and he goes, you must be Balky. And Balky runs over, gives him a big hug. He's not afraid of hugging Billy. He goes, Cousin Billy, I'm so glad to meet you. If it's anything you need, socks, deodorant, toenail clipper. Don't hesitate to say the word. And then he goes, because any brother of Cousin Larry's is a cousin of mine.
I love that.
Which is technically accurate
the phrase
and true.
Should be any brother of Larry's is a brother
or
of
any
mine.
friend. Any friend of Larry's is a friend. You would say any friend of yours is a friend of mine. But
any brother of Cousin Larry's is a cousin of mine, which is very accurate. Yeah.
So they go all and they sit down and Larry invites Billy. So Larry sits at the desk. Billy sits on the edge of the desk in front and Balky sits in the chair to the right. And Larry asks Billy, what do you think of my office? Billy's like, it's nice. It's almost as big as my office in London.
Oh,
just one-upping Larry with everything.
And then Balky tries to play along because he's so excited about
Appleton's
Snow Job.
Yeah, we're playing a game.
And Balky says, you think this is big? You should see Cousin Larry's other office. It's as big as a basement. And Billy's like, you have 2 offices? And Larry gets nervous. He's like, well, they treat me pretty well here. And then Balky is still playing along pretty well. Pretty well. They treat this man as if he were Prince Valium. And then he takes it a step further. After all, he is the youngest publisher in Chicago. Oh, boy.
Oh, jeez. He's piling it on here now.
Okay, Prince Valium. Who is Prince Valium
so
meant to
he
be?
was supposed to say he meant Prince Valiant.
Who is Prince Valiant?
Prince Valiant, what I know of Prince Valiant, it is the early predecessor, the birth of the comic book. It was one of the first serialized comic strips in the papers, kind of creating the art form of the comic book when eventually they collected all the strips and put them in one book.
Prince Valiant.
Prince Valiant.
I had a different thought about Prince Valium. I thought perhaps he was mixing it up with Prince William, who would have been a more contemporary reference at this time.
Maybe it was Prince William. The V made me think of Prince Valiant.
Prince William, Prince Valium.
They're both like
it could be a mixture
of
both references. Yeah. We will never know.
It might be Prince William. Maybe I was wrong. But Prince Valiant's like the original superhero, comic book superhero, really.
Yeah, but I don't know how common a reference that would have been. Well, some of these references are more obscure. All right, let's go 50-50 on that one. Maybe it's both.
I think 50-50 is probably
okay.
A safe bet.
We are much better siblings than Larry and Billy.
We don't need to one-up each other.
I did just get a raise, though.
You get it.
Balky. So Balky is like piling it on now. He's told Billy that Larry's the youngest publisher in Chicago, and Larry's trying to stop him. But before he can do that, Billy's confused. He says, I thought you were the city editor. And Larry starts to try to cover for that. And then Balky's like, cousin, while you were having breakfast with Ted Koppel, you got a promotion. And then Larry's like, yeah, but I haven't accepted it yet, trying to cover for these extravagant lies now.
This is Balky's making this a lot more interesting.
Balky thinks they're getting points in this game.
Yeah, we're getting points. Yeah. Lots of points. So Billy picks up that framed photo of Jennifer on Larry's desk and he's like, wow, who is this? He goes, don't tell me this is the lady in your life. And I love when Balky does this. He goes, lady in his life. Lady in his life. lady in his life. What was the question?
And Billy's just like, who is this?
Who is this? And then Balky, again, trying to win points. He goes, oh, that's Jennifer. She just happens to be Cousin Larry's fiance and a former Miss Costa Rica.
Oh, boy. You know what I think is funny about this photo, and as well as the one of Larry on the wall, as well as the one
They're
of
like promotional
Burns.
photos.
They're headshots. Like regular people don't, like, you wouldn't have a headshot of your girlfriend unless your girlfriend was an actress or something. But would you have your own headshot up in your own office?
No, I don't.
That's weird. But
know.
Burns had one, so Larry had one too. But I just think that's weird.
Well, how else do you know who's the managing editor? How else do you know whose office you're in? Oh, it must be that guy. His picture's up on the wall.
I'm going to put a headshot up in my home office.
Yes, in your I should have one too. I want a giant, like, the 18 by 24 poster of my head.
Enormous headshot.
Yeah, can I get that?
You know what's funny is... this is a small aside. Many years ago, I spent a year in Moscow, Russia, and I was doing some work there, and I made some Russian friends along the way, and I had my birthday there, and birthdays are like big deal there. And
okay,
the Russian friends, like, you know, wanted to get the American friends gifts for all their birthdays, so they like meaningful gifts. And my friend gave me a framed photograph of me that she had snapped while we were on a boat in a river, and like the wind is blowing my hair, but she had like heavily photoshopped it. So it looks like this glamour shot, and it was enormous. It was large and framed, and I was like,
that's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I was like, this is amazing.
Oh.
So I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
At least it wasn't like an oil painting portrait of yourself.
That would have been
funny
thing.
Awkward.
I was like, you know, it was really nice of them, and they thought it was a nice gift, and it was. And so I was like, oh my God, this is lovely. Thank you. But it was like really big, like glamour shot.
Where is this now? Did you bring it back to the States?
I put it on the wall in the apartment, and I left it there. The apartment that I was living in for
just
that
so the
year.
next person knows who used to live here.
I have like the digital of it somewhere, but I'm like, I am not carrying this back to America. It was a lovely gesture. And I just left it there. And I'm like, people are going to think I like died, and this was like the memorial.
It's a shrine. Yeah, you should have put like flowers.
Anyway, that just made me think of the framed headshot. Maybe I'll post a picture of it in the group later.
Okay. By framed headshot.
Framed headshot. Okay, back to the scene. They have now told the latest lie is that this beautiful headshot woman is Larry's fiance.
That picture came with the frame, Appleton. Come
on. So then Larry's trying to deflect all this, and he gets them to go. He's like, we're going to be late. They have to go get lunch. That was the plan. And then he's like, my car's in the shop, so we're going to have to take a cab.
Yeah,
and then Balky, who's still playing the game, is like, why don't we just hop in your helicopter? And Billy's like, helicopter? And then Larry has to cover again. He's like, we can't use it. It's just a 2-seater. Whoever heard of a 2-seater helicopter?
And then I love also as Balky walks out, Larry just gives him a look and smacks him on the back of the head as if to say, cut it out already, would ya?
And that is the end of our act 2.
Is Larry gonna come clean and make good with Brother Billy? We'll find out in Act 3. But first, make sure you support this show. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com/support. You can throw us a little tip, some of the change in your car, in your sofa. You can buy us a virtual coffee, toss it in there, buy us some coffees, and we would appreciate any and all support. Thank you all who have supported us generously. It means the world. Act 3, sister, what's happening?
Act 3, we are back in the basement of the Chronicle.
Back at the Chronicle.
And Balky and Larry return into the basement, and they're like laughing as if they, you know, whenever someone like fast forward
walks
to the next scene and they enter laughing, it's like they had a good time, right?
They had a good time, yes.
So we know they've had a good time. Balky just loves this game, Appleton's Snow Job. And he even suggests they call Parker Brothers and ask them if they want to make a home version of Appleton's Snow Job. That would be a fun thing to make now. Super
Appleton's
obscure.
Snow Job card game.
Yeah. And Larry's like, okay. And then Balky's still like so excited about this. He's like, did you see Cousin Billy's face when I told him that NASA wants you to be the first journalist on the moon?
Oh, God.
And Larry's like, okay, I have to stop this. And he's like, Balky. But Balky cuts him off and he goes, question. If Cousin Billy is on his way to the airport, when are you going to tell him that we fooled him so that we can all have the laugh riot of our lives?
Laugh riot of our lives.
He means the laugh of our lives. What is
it's laugh riot? It's a good question about the details of this game, though. It's a very good question.
Yes. What are the rules? How does one win?
Yes. Where do you win? When do we tell them? Yes. Does it end?
End the gameplay. And Larry finally just tells him, and he confesses that there's no Appleton snow job is not a real thing, that he made it up.
I'm surprised. I thought he would go even farther with this, but
he was
Larry's
almost in the
got to him at the beginning of Act 3. Larry's conscience gets the better of him.
He was almost in the clear. He almost got away with it. But Balky just laughs even more when he finds out it's not a real thing. And he says, go on with you, you crazy son of a goat. He just can't believe it because he says it's got to be a game. Otherwise, what is it? It's just a big pack of lies. And Larry's like, well, I wouldn't call it a big pack of lies. And that's when it occurs to Balky.
This is a big moment because Balky realized not only that Larry lied to him, Larry lied to his cousin Billy, Larry made Balky lie to cousin Billy.
That's the part that gets him.
And Balky's like, have I left anything out? And Larry's trying to apologize. He said he shouldn't have dragged him into this, but he couldn't let Billy know he's not as successful as he is. It's all about appearances.
And Balky insists that cousin Larry has to tell cousin Billy the truth. And Larry assures him that he will. So they do a quick back and forth. You will, I will, you will, I will. And Balky asks him, when will he tell him the truth? And Larry says, the very next time I see him. Unfortunately, that could be 2 or 3 years. As if they don't have phones in 1988.
Yeah, they don't talk.
Why does he have to break the news face to face? I don't get it. I guess they don't talk on the phones. But I don't know. Billy called on the phone to tell him he's coming.
Only when he was in town, though.
Yeah, true. Anyway, Larry continues. Until he sees him again, he'll just have to bear the burden of his guilt.
There's Larry's out. He doesn't actually have to tell his brother Billy. And then fate steps in and hilariously timed, the phone rings. With bad news, as Larry picks it up, he goes, Appleton. He goes, what? He goes, no, that's wonderful news. Turns out that was Billy. His flight got canceled. He's going to be spending the night with them. And Balky just smugly looks over slowly and goes, lucky break. Oh. That's karma, dude. Karma.
You know what I wondered about this? If Billy is like a successful business owner and a jet setter and stuff like that, why can't he just get a hotel room? Yeah, like by the airport or something.
They would have put him up or something. That's suspicious. I wonder why.
Suspicious, or as the kids say these days, sus.
It's sus, brah.
Totally sus.
What is it? No cap. Big facts, no cap.
Yeah, what is
I got it backwards. I'm an old man. I can't. I know these kids don't make it. No cap. Big facts, no cap.
Something like that. We are old listeners.
Yeah, we're old. We
have the same laugh, apparently.
All right, so the scene continues later that evening back at the apartment. We keep jumping back and forth from Chronicle apartment. We're back at the apartment, and Balky enters. Larry's there in a lovely blue sweater. In a blue shirt, and Balky enters asking if Larry has told his brother Billy.
And you know what else? Balky has a new jacket.
He's got a blue jacket on, yeah.
What happened to the Trapper Keeper jacket?
I don't. Maybe he left it on the subway or a bus or something. No. It happens. Okay. Sometimes
maybe it's too cold for the Trapper Keeper jacket.
You got to go to the CTA Lost and Found. So he asked Larry if he's told cousin Billy the truth, and Larry goes, I told Billy everything he needs to know and more. Okay?
Oh,
so Balky says he's proud of him, and Larry is trying to rush Balky out of the apartment, making up some excuse about go visit Jennifer Mary and make popcorn. when Billy comes out of Larry's bedroom, and Billy's like, Larry, does Balky have a lint brush? He goes, oh, hi, Balky. Billy goes, hey, this is a nice little place you have here. Do you have a lint brush? He's asking Balky, and Balky goes, yes, it's in my lint drawer. And Billy goes, I should have checked there first.
What is a lint drawer?
It's in it. Does he also store the lint
for
that you
his
collect?
Lint art. Remember when he made lint
yeah, he's
paintings?
a lint painting. So he's got a lint drawer with a lint brush and lint collectings for his lint painting. He's an artist.
Gross.
That's what he's got to do.
That's what he does to wind down in the evenings in his bedroom.
And then Billy says something that blows Larry's spot open.
Yeah.
Wide open. Billy goes, listen, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you putting us up here while Larry's getting his townhouse remodeled. Thanks. And he slaps Balky in the arm, walks back in. So let me get this straight. Larry told Billy that not only does he not live there, this is Balky's apartment, my townhouse is getting renovated. Balky's put me up, and he said you can stay here,
but
too.
But even more reason for successful Billy to have been like, oh, no problem. I'll just grab a hotel.
Yeah,
a 5-star hotel room.
You know what? On me. Let's hang out. We'll have a fun night. You don't have a place to stay.
Yeah, come to my suite in the hotel or whatever.
Wow, Larry Appleton. And that's basically what Balky says. He says, well, you big fat liar. You big fat liar.
And then he gets mad. He's like, you didn't tell him the truth. Not only that, you let me walk around the block in the cold, freezing my buttocks off for an hour so that you could tell him about your alleged townhouse. What? Is your conscience broken? If Jiminy Cricket were here, he'd puke in his hat. Which is such a weird and funny thing to say.
Well, because wasn't Jiminy Cricket, he said your conscience will be your guide in the Pinocchio.
Correct, but was there anything about puking in his hat?
No, Jiminy Cricket would be so upset that Larry's conscience is just so corrupt.
Funny image, yeah.
Yeah, a little cricket with a hat puking in his top hat. It's hilarious.
And the hat was like pointy, right? Or
I thought it was like a top hat.
It was a top hat.
Hat. Yeah.
So Larry is trying to explain his way out of this. He says, Balky, try to understand. For the first time, Billy is treating him with respect. And Balky's not falling for it. And he like spits, fake spits. He's like, oh. And he says he's going to tell Cousin Billy the truth. And he starts to go to the bedroom. But Larry grabs him and pulls him back. And he says, you can't. And he says, this is between two brothers, and lies between brothers are sacred.
Man, Larry is pulling all sorts of things out of his behind in this episode.
Lies between brothers are sacred.
Brothers are sacred. And Balky's like, cousin, would you listen to yourself? Why are you so afraid to tell Cousin Billy the truth? He's just like you. He puts on his pants one leg at a time, and at that cue, Ted McGinley walks out wearing a tuxedo and looking amazing. And Balky goes, just that he does it so much more effectively.
Okay, so they chose that as the joke. I think another opportunity here would be to botch the puts his pants on one leg at a time into some other way. But I guess they kept it the real phrase so that they could have the joke that follows.
Because then he walks out and he looks great and Balky's impressed.
Yeah, so much more effectively. That's another way to ogle.
He's in a tuxedo now.
Yeah, he's in a tuxedo. Where are they going?
He's in a tuxedo. I don't know.
And in fact, he says, I hope I'm not overdressed. And then Balky and Larry both look down at their clothes.
They look down at each other and then and themselves. It's so funny. They look at each other and look down.
And Larry just goes, oh, darn. I left my tuxedo at the townhouse.
More lies.
But no problem. We'll just go someplace that's tuxedo optional. Bye, Balky. And he starts to try to leave with Billy, and Balky stops them. Wait, cousin, what's the hurry? And then there's this great line, and he ushers them to the couch. He says, listen, you don't want to eat on an empty stomach.
Oh my God, I love that. And it's another like quick throwaway line that just rolled like you would have missed it. But he goes, listen, you don't want to eat on an empty stomach. I thought that was hilarious.
You don't want to eat on an empty stomach. Come and sit down. He wants them to have a nice little talk. And he leads them over to the couch and he puts them there and he sits between them. And then he starts in on a Meposian ritual. Starts to explain a Meposian ritual. And he says, when two brothers have not seen each other for a long time, they have to sit and listen to the story of the brothers Zaki Bat.
Oh, the brothers Zaki Bat. I love that story. It's great. Our mother read it to us every night before we went to bed.
And he starts to tell the story, and we hear the lesson time music here. So it's kind of, the lesson is kind of like enwrapped in this story, but I think the lesson of this episode comes later on. Anyway, we have the music, and he tells the story, and we're not going to tell the whole story, but it's about these two brothers called the brothers Zaki Bat. Their names were Mookie and Glinky.
Mookie and Glinky Zaki Bat. The brothers.
And it's basically the story of Larry and Billy, but in Meatposian style. It was two brothers that were always trying to out-impress each other, and they were jealous and they were envious. He says Mookie would try to appear to be better than Glinky by lying. I'll say this one line because it's funny. He says, if Glinky had a ram, Mookie said he had two rams. If Glinky had a fine horse, Mookie said he had a BMW. That was a big jump from fine horse. And so he talks about how they just Mookie piled on these lies to try to outdo Glinky. And then basically in the end, they grow old and Mookie realized that he was lonely because he didn't have a brother that he could be honest with or whatever. And he decides to come clean and tell Glinky the truth. And he begins this long journey back to Glinky's home, but he's old. So it was very trying. But by the time he gets there, he finds out that Glinky has passed.
Oh, no.
And
Glinky's
Mookie
dead.
felt super guilty. He now has to live with these lies, and he's alone because he's lied his whole life.
Well, and the last line is, and Mookie realized that a man who lives with lies lives alone.
And the whole time he's directing this whole story, Balky's sitting in the middle, right? And he's facing Larry and directing. And Larry's trying to interrupt so that, and end it shortly. But Balky continued with the story, and he's directing it completely at Larry.
Trying to get Larry to come clean. And I love this twist because suddenly it's brother Billy that snaps and he goes, I can't take it anymore. And I was like, what? And he buries his face in his hands and he goes, I don't want to end up like Mookie, Billy says. And Larry's like, Billy?
And Larry and Balky are surprised by this.
And Billy goes, it's lies. It's all lies. I don't own a company. I don't even have a jet. It's a rented tuxedo. Cufflinks are mine.
And Balky's like, very nice. Understated,
but I like it. And then Larry's like, but what about all the fancy addresses? Monte Carlo, Rio, Palm Beach. And this line is killer. Ted McGinley goes, I'm a travel agent.
I
get deals. I thought that was so funny. That reveal. And then Larry, this is the moment where like, oh, Larry, great, you can come clean and have a big hug. Instead, Larry goes, you mean you've lied to me all these years? Acting surprised and completely ignoring that he's been doing the same thing.
And Billy is super guilty at this point. He's feeling really bad. And he says, I know it was wrong. I'm sorry. But then Balky goes, oh, don't feel bad, cousin Billy. And then he looks at Larry and he's like, please. And he's a little bit appalled that Larry is just sitting there letting Billy apologize profusely. He says, I think cousin Larry has something to say to you. Don't you, cousin Larry? And then Larry's like, yes, of course I do. He says, Billy, I forgive you.
Again, he dodges it again.
And Billy's like, thank you. And Balky is like, are you kidding me? Looks at Larry with disbelief. And Larry stops smiling. And then he says, don't you have a little bit more that you want to say to cousin Billy? And that's where Larry comes clean. He tells him that Billy should not be ashamed because he has been doing the same thing. And Billy goes, you're a travel agent?
That's what I love. That's the line I was waiting for.
That line
That's
is
a great
so funny.
callback. You're a travel agent?
And he's like, no, he means that he's also been lying. He says, I'm not the city editor at the paper. I don't own a townhouse. Jennifer and I aren't engaged, but she does like me.
Does she, Larry? Does she?
Does she?
Know. Questionable. And Billy goes, Larry, why would you lie to me? And Larry's like, are you kidding? All my life, I've had to live up to you. Billy, the great athlete. Billy, the most popular guy at school. I got tired of mom and dad always saying, why can't you be more like your brother Billy?
And then Billy says, well, how do you think I liked it when they kept saying, why can't you be more like your brother Larry? What? Look how good his grades are. Look how neat he keeps his room. Look how well he irons.
Look how well he irons. It's so funny. And then Larry has a great line. He goes, gosh, all this time we've been resenting each other when we should have been resenting mom and dad.
And here I think that's the real lesson of this episode.
Oh, no. We wasted time resenting each other.
I think that's the real lesson of this episode. And then Larry's like, all of a sudden they've patched up years of rivalry and lying. Billy says, let's just start all over again, okay? Let's stop all this lying and be good brothers. And Larry agrees. He says, I'd like that. And then they both stand up. They start to shake hands, and then they instead hug each other.
Oh, and the whole audience.
That hug that they should have done at the beginning, yes.
Yeah.
And then they're like embracing in the center, and then they separate, and we see Balky on the couch in the middle. He's crying now. And he says, that was beautiful. You know, I think someday you both are going to look back on this and realize that this was the moment you really became brothers. This was the moment you really stepped in something good.
Aw, and roll credits. I'm glad they made up. It is kind of sad that they wasted many years on lies and not having brother memories, but now they can have memories together. I give them. There's eight of them. The Appleton dynamic must be insane. I'm sure he has to make up with the rest 7 other siblings too.
The other 7, yeah.
They're all lying to each other.
There's 9 total.
He's the 9th one.
Yeah, he's the 9th.
Before we dive in some more, make sure next time, listener, you do the Dance of Joy. You need the uniform. You need an outfit, and you can find that at our TeePublic shop. danceofjoypod.com/shop. You need a Dance of Joy podcast t-shirt or hoodie or tank top with a face mask and a pillow and a tote bag. And then you put all these things on and you do the Dance of Joy. You could do it solo. You could do it with a partner. We've seen Balky do it solo.
Or you could just wear all that stuff to Whole Foods like I do.
Or you could do that while you're shopping for really expensive iceberg lettuce. $12.
Yes.
What?
Indeed.
That's mostly water.
But you know, I'm successful now, so I can afford it.
Yes, that's right. My jet is waiting, so we got to wrap this up quickly. I got to get on.
Okay. Before we get into some specifics of this episode, I have a question for you. Did you ever lie to impress me? We are siblings too. We are not brothers, but one of us is a brother.
I don't think, did I? No.
But we didn't have parents that said, why can't you be more like your brother or your sister? Instead, our parents were like, why can't you both be more like that other guy's
other
kids?
People. Yes,
like
why
those
can't
other
you
people's
both be
kids.
like those successful kids
to
out
this
there?
day, we're like grown up and we still hear that.
Happened. But you know what?
They didn't pit us against each other.
No.
They pit us against
the world.
Other kids all together. Yeah.
But this is also why I kind of I didn't go to any of my high school reunions precisely for this reason. I don't need this kind of competition.
Whatever, shut up. You're successful.
No, it's not.
You have a successful 80s rewatch podcast.
That's right. Very successful.
Very successful.
Very niche. No, it's a fun episode, and it gave us Appleton snow job. This is a phrase that lives on in infamy now. There is a box of Raisin Poofs when they're eating breakfast. Which is a nice little Easter egg. So they got
continuation of the Raisin Poofs.
The Unicorn Company.
Presumably there are now either there are now 100 raisins in each box, or the box no longer claims to have 100 raisins.
Let's talk about Ted McGinley. Really, that's the whole thing. This guest appearance from Ted McGinley, who did a lot of TV in the 80s and still has been working.
You know where I recognize him from?
Yes.
Another show set in Chicago.
Yeah,
called Married with Children.
Yep.
He was the good-looking neighbor.
He was married to Darcy.
Yes, married to Darcy.
And in a lot of these roles, he's done voiceovers and cartoons, and in a lot of these roles, he's very self-aware. He was also in Wayne's World 2.
Okay, but there's like something that he's known for.
What is he known? What is he most known for, Sophia?
I recognize him from Married with Children, of course, but he's also had a bit of a reputation in the acting world back in the 80s, and he was known as the Jump the Shark King. because he appeared on a number of different shows which got canceled after he appeared on them.
Which is the phenomenon known as when a show jumps the shark, which will explain why it's that, but that usually means the show's going to go downhill in quality. It's the best seasons are over and it's bad.
And weirdly, we know that this phrase jump the shark comes from an episode of Happy Days, not the episode that Ted McGinley was on, but the phrase originated with a Happy Days episode that was literally about jumping over a shark.
It was Fonzie jumping over sharks on skis, and it was just, it's also became the thing you would call it jumping the shark when a show does something super gimmicky for ratings.
And the most famous, the most notable instance of the Billy McGinley jump the shark phenomenon was on Happy Days during its final run. But it wasn't that episode. It's just a weird coincidence.
Because he comes in and replaces Fonzie,
That's right.
So, and then the show goes down. Because there's no Fonzie, why are you making Happy Days? What are you doing? But a lot of shows, like The Walking Dead, we still have a jump the shark moment. You still be like, okay, this is when the show jumped the shark.
Well, usually, it's going to come when, especially with sitcoms or family sitcoms, introduce a new child character in a later season.
Brady Bunch, Cousin Oliver. That's the jump the shark moment. Same thing with Different Strokes. They add Danny Cooksey at the last few. It's usually towards the end of the few seasons.
So this happened to Ted McGinley a number of times, apparently. And so he got this reputation of being the jump the shark guy. But
so funny.
He also had some other good moments in his career in which he did not end a series.
He's a fine actor. He's got great comedic timing. And
he was on Married with Children the whole time. He was a recurring character on Dynasty, the soap opera from the 80s. And he was on The West Wing and some other stuff. So some shows were canceled after he was on them, but not all.
I think he shook that jump the shark status because it's been years. Now, it also explains why a lot of people wondered why Jerry Seinfeld ended his show at 9 seasons at the height when it was doing the best. Yeah. And this is exactly the reason why. He was smart. I always wondered.
Same with Schitt's Creek. All the fans
I always wondered, why would you let the show get downhill? And this is the last thing fans remember. Leave on a high note when it's hitting. You never get to jump the shark.
Okay. So that's super interesting about Ted McGinley. Also, he was quite attractive. Probably still is. If you're into that finely coiffed hair. Okay, we had some good Balkyisms this episode. You read my mind. You must have PMS. They treat this man as if he were Prince Valium, which we called a tie-on between Prince Valiant and Prince William. And you don't want to eat on an empty stomach.
That's great.
There were also some good Larryisms, like that line, you can't play with 4, the teams would be uneven. I just love that so much.
Don't be ridiculous, not sad.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
But we do have a couple wows.
Yeah, I got some good wows.
At least one, get out of the city.
And then you got Belky going, well, I gotta go. You gotta ha.
And what was the question?
And then question.
And go on with you. And the closing line of the whole episode, you really stepped in something good.
Some fantastic alliteration in this episode, which you see pop up here and again. We saw it in the Baba Sticky episode. Or the Bibi Bobkas. That was Bibi Bobkas of Baba Sticky. So the B alliteration returns again, which is interesting. B, I guess, is just the most fun, easy word to get that.
And also for acting and B is a hard sound, so you can hit it hard and make it funnier. Yes. K's are funny, B's are funny, P's.
P's are also good. Yes. Yeah. Hard consonant. You need a hard consonant.
Hard consonants are funnier. That's what we learn in comedy school.
And rule of threes, which we see here when Balky cries to get something he wants. I want to play Appleton Snowja. Okay, you're it.
Yeah, rule of threes all throughout this episode. Okay, let's talk about Dimitri. Did you spot him?
This one is kind of hard to find.
Okay.
You can see him barely on the bookcase in the background during the scene where they're eating breakfast. And then later, you kind of see them and he's sitting there and it looks like he has a long, pointy nose. similar to one Pinocchio's nose that would grow when he was
Dimitri,
lying.
the sheep, has been telling some lies.
Or it's like sympathetic lie reaction to Larry's. Both of the Appletons bragging made his nose grow. So that's the Dimitri sheep in 1988. The Dimitri sheep in 2021. We can find out on his Instagram account what he's up to.
That's right. We have our favorite sheep Instagram account, which everyone should go and follow and check out. It's Dimitri Sheep, Dimitri sheep, all one word. And this is Dimitri the Stuffed Sheep posting a themed post for every episode that we are reviewing.
Oh, man.
And
there's a lot going on in this one.
Yeah, this one is great. The post for this episode, the location is marked as Competitive Edge Chicago. I don't know exactly what that business is, but
it could be anything. It sounds like a marketing business or a financial investment business or
a bank. I don't know. And okay, let's talk about what we see in the picture. So we have Dimitri the sheep at a table, and in front of him on the table, first of all, there is a big book, and it's open to the title page, and it's Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's apt.
There's a brothers reference. Okay.
Yeah, it's a brothers reference. I have started this book at least a dozen times.
I've never read
in
this.
my
It's
life
way too
and
thick.
not ever made it all the way through.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how close it is to this story. I definitely have it on my shelf right now. Anyway.
But brothers.
Okay, and then we have some paper snowflakes, like those decoration crepe
foam core
snowflakes.
Yeah.
Which is a reference, of course, to Appleton's Snow Job.
Oh, the snow job. Right.
And then we have like a desk name title thing.
Yeah.
It says Dimitri Bartokomous, village editor of the Mypos Chronicle.
That's great.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's changed from city editor to village editor. And the newspaper is the Mypos Chronicle. And then we have a headshot.
This is hilarious.
A framed headshot of Miss Mypos 1988, and it's another sheep.
That is
like a real sheep.
That's an attractive looking sheep. He's got a picture.
Mypos, so that is in reference to Jennifer's
it's fantastic.
headshot.
Yeah.
And the fact that Balky said she was
yeah.
Miss Costa Rica, which was like a random country to choose, I guess. And then I had to zoom in to see some of the details here. Let's zoom in. There are some invoices, 3 invoices for services laid out on the table. The first one is Stavros and Brothers Shearing. And I don't know. I don't think the details of the invoices are as important as the amounts, because this is showing that Dimitri the sheep has all this money for this stuff.
Ah, right. Okay.
So the amount is like $2,046. The next one is Jiminy Town Huts, Inc.
Yeah.
And it's an invoice for remodeling. Oh, some of these details are funny, actually. Shower installation, water filter repair, tile repair, mirror repair.
This is for the girl's bathroom.
Oh, that's right. Sheep entry door and clay oven repair. What's the clay oven? Anyway, that total is $1,045. I don't know what, presumably dollars, but
Dimitri's making tandoori bread in the clay oven there.
And then the third invoice is from Zaki Badbad Family Farm. And let's see what was purchased there. Pig's milk, pig spleens, 22 fish eyes for soup, 12 goat kidney muffins, goat hair coat, fine home woven linen. And the total is $1,610. And then Dimitri has a checkbook in front of him, and he's writing a check. South Village, his address is in South Village, Mypos Island. Dimitri Bartokomous, MD, JD, MBA, LMNOP.
Oh, that's actually pretty funny. I didn't catch that.
Very cute. And the check is written to the first business, Stavros and Bros Shearing, for 2,000 spelled $2,046.
For a shear and sculpt. So he had a little grooming done. Very expensive spa day for Dimitri sheep here. And there's a pair of nail clippers.
Nail clippers, because Balky, when Billy first comes, he's like, if you need anything, nail clippers.
There's so many details in this post. It is amazing. That's great.
Well done. Although I was kind of expecting a lint brush.
A lint brush would have been nice, but they didn't use it, actually. They used it in another episode. Right. But the nail clippers, the bill of, just to show that he's bragging and he's made up these fake invoices and he's spending all this. It's so good.
And that he's like, he toss checks left and right, you know.
It's nothing. It's peanuts to him.
Bank of Meepos. Also, the checkbook says Bank of Meepos.
Very good.
Oh, the date on the check is March 18th, 1988, which is the date this show aired. Very, very well done. Yet again, Dimitri Sheep. Thank you. Everyone, please go and follow Dimitri Sheep on Instagram. It's a delight. And now it's time for the segment of our show that we call Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we discuss if this story were to happen today, how would this episode be different? Would it hold up? Would any details change or be modernized? What are you thinking, Imran?
So I was thinking about this a lot, and I can't decide if it's easier or harder to fool people nowadays than back then. Because here's why. For example, on the one hand, a simple Google search would have blown everybody's lives wide open.
We talked about that. You can't just say you're the city editor. That information is publicly available
you can
now
look it up
on websites.
All the things he said he looked up. But on the other hand, you have incredible deep fake technology. You have Photoshop.
True.
You have people who are catfished every day on the internet. So is it harder? Or is things more transparent?
I think the types of lies would have changed. Like,
it would have
if it's today, Larry wouldn't say, I'm city editor. You wouldn't lie about something that could easily be Googled, right? But
you could make a fake Instagram account with doctored photos to show your brother, look at all the stuff I'm doing.
I mean, Billy's lies would hold up. He could say, his Instagram is just pictures of him in Monte Carlo or Palm Beach or whatever.
Agent.
He's jet setting, right?
So if he was a flight attendant and he took these pictures, and that's how
he's a travel agent. He gets deals. He could easily say, this is my home. This is how I roll. This is my company, right? Larry's lies would have to get a little more sophisticated
to keep up with him.
Right.
They would have to find someone who's really good at Photoshop and digital media manipulation. But, how much do you think people's social media posts today are exaggerated anyways?
A lot.
Yeah, probably.
Are you kidding me?
Probably.
A lot.
So, this would be a fun one to do now, figuring out the ways they would try to fool each other using technology.
I mean, do you even know for sure that I live in Washington, D.C.?
I know. I don't know.
You don't know where I live.
You could be anywhere. You could have cut yourself into a photo. Listen, on Canva, you know how easy it is to remove the background, to take someone out of a picture now? It's wild.
Not only on Canva, on all sorts of platforms. The technology is so great.
It makes me so angry because as a graphic designer, I spent years and making a mask, removing the background was something that took a lot of time that you needed skill at.
Now you
and
can
even in Photoshop, literally, it's one click.
Adobe has great new AI stuff coming out on all of their platforms.
Yeah, I'm like, why did I waste all my time making these selections?
Edit things.
Anybody could do it.
But, yeah. Yeah. And you can make the deepfake technology is amazing too. You can make someone say something that was never, whole speeches never occurred.
You AI audio, you feed it audio, and then the computer will say it in that voice. Deepfake combined with the AI audio.
Dumb people will believe it.
Oh my God. You can make anybody do anything.
Smart people will believe
anything, anywhere, at any time. You can make it look like it can happen. So I don't know. I think it would still hold up.
That's a very good point. Yeah. We still have a lot of this lying, but it's just a different kind of lying and it's more sophisticated.
It's more
clearly
high-tech.
You wouldn't lie about something that could easily be Googled. Like Larry's lies would have to be of a slightly different nature. I think Billy's lies would hold up. Oh, well, except for the fact that he has a company, because presumably the company would have a website.
And you can't say I have this company.
Maybe you could say he's working on a company or something.
No, you just download stock photos from exotic places and be like, oh, having a great time, and tag it in the thing with the location. Nobody knows. It's that easy.
But, even if he is a travel agent, which doesn't exist really anymore, a little bit they do, but if he was a travel agent and was actually getting deals and going to all these places, he wouldn't even need to fake the photos. He would just
he would be there.
He would actually be there. He would just fake exaggerate the captions.
Or he would stay in the dumpy hotel and walk over to the resort and take a photo and go back to his dumpy hotel.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So that's a good That's a good point.
It would be fun to rewrite this today, I think, this episode.
Let's do it. What else? Anything else that would have changed beyond the lying?
Well, people still wear tuxedos. I don't know. Yeah.
Now it's time for our shout outs / commentary from our listeners.
Yes, the cousins. The cousins had a lot to say about this episode.
Group. Yeah, there were a lot of feelings about this episode.
Another mixed reaction one.
We'll start with cousin Evelyn, who says, once again, we see Larry redeem himself. Balky is more unidimensional as a character, pure good, but he's given a wider range of emotion to play. Larry is more multidimensional as a character, good and bad traits, but he's given a smaller range to play. I think they balance each other out in this way.
I love that observation. That's pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty
deep. Solid right there.
Cousin Evelyn also writes, not my favorite episode, not my favorite episode, but a few genuinely funny lines. And my always personal favorite, you really stepped in something good. I don't recall this line being there later in the show. I hope it's not the last time we hear it.
They used it a lot this season.
They did, yeah.
Cousin Pam says, I'm just going to go and get it off my chest. So far, this has been my least favorite episode. Larry lied and manipulated Balky from start to finish. What kind of a weird sibling rivalry did Larry and Billy have that they couldn't be happy for each other's success? They couldn't get past room cleaning and ironing abilities. And then in the end, they blame their parents for their own shortcomings. It does give some insight to Larry's character. She goes, this episode ticked me off so much, I need a Prince Valium. This is another great use of the phrase.
Points for the reference.
But I get where she's coming from.
I liked it that they blamed their parents. I thought that was really funny. And
yeah, I thought that was something, some people can relate to.
Yeah, relatable. Okay, without getting into too many details. Okay. Cousin Lauren writes, at least Ted McGinley's stint here didn't cause Perfect Strangers to jump the shark.
Points for that one, too.
Lauren was aware
good callback
of Ted McGinley's reputation in the 80s. Very good, Cousin Lauren.
Yeah.
And then Cousin John writes, so now Balky is being manipulated.
Manipulated.
Very nice portmanteau there. Manipulated. So now Balky is being manipulated strictly for pride. At least the other episodes were for a new car or to get laid. At this rate, he'll soon be threatening Balky for having witnessed a murder.
That sounds like an episode of Perfect Strangers.
Yeah.
No, it kind of does.
So the Appleton family was a bunch of insecure kids competing for each other's approval.
Yep,
Larry is right. They should all be resenting their parents. See?
Absolutely.
I like that
John
too.
Gets it. Cousin John gets it.
And finally, Cousin John agrees with others. Not my favorite, but a few really good jokes really raised my opinion. A solid middling episode.
Solid middling. Yeah, that's what it is.
Solid middling.
He's always nails it at the end there. Good stuff. Good fun episode. And hey, we have one episode left in season 3.
Get out of the city.
Stay tuned.
And stay tuned because it involves a 80s celebrity appearance.
We get an actual 80s celebrity showing up in
celebrity
the 80s
from the 80s
sitcom. Fantastic. Season 3 finale next week. Stay subscribed.
Stay subscribed. And if you are with us and enjoying what we do, please go check out our website, danceofjoypod.com. There you can find all the links for where to find the podcast, all the apps, all that, where you can subscribe, where you can leave us a rating and a review. You can also, on that website, click a button on the bottom right of the landing page and leave us a voice message. Tell us what you think. Tell us your thoughts. Tell us the things we got wrong or right on the show. If you don't like the sound of your voice, as some of us don't, you can also send us an email at danceofjoypod@gmail.com or hit us up on any of the socials, which are also included on the website. We're on the Facebooks, the Twitter, the Instagram. Find us, get in touch with us, say hi, tell us what you think. We will be very appreciative. But most importantly, if you're listening to the podcast and if you are watching Perfect Strangers along with us, what is the most important thing you should be doing, Imran?
Always put on your pants one leg at a time, Because otherwise you need like two people to hold them up and you got to jump off a thing and get in there and you could get hurt.
Very true. What is the second most important thing you should be doing, Imran?
Share the show with a friend who needs to laugh, who needs a little bit of joy in their life, who is a fan of Perfect Strangers. Share it into the world. Thank you for listening to the Dance of Joy podcast. And now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. Die, 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 die. Hey, 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 hey.